After years of build-up, wild theories, and a whole heap of anticipation across the fandom, we have finally seen the face of the most dangerous pirate in One Piece history. And he definitely lived up to the hype. Rox Alive looked every bit the monster the legends warned us about. The man was introduced as someone who single-handedly defeated a Marine Admiral. But the real shock came with the next twist. Rox Alive is Blackbeard's father. And that connection changes everything. For years, Rox started as a cautionary tale, a dark chapter scrubbed from the history books, his name barely remembered by those alive today, his crew scattered across the seas, many of whom are now also considered legends of a bygone era. And yet, this mysterious figure still holds so much importance, and this revelation sparks off a whole new batch of titillating speculations. Because Rox Alive, his story clearly isn't over, and maybe he's even still alive. But before we dive into some of these theories, please make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any One Piece discussions, and also to help out a fellow One Piece fan get to 100,000 subscribers. Since I read chapter 1154, my brain has been in overdrive, coming up with so many potential stories and plot threads involving our deadly father and son duo, Rox Alive and Marshall D. Teach. Now, according to Sengoku in chapter 957, Rox Alive was defeated at God Valley 38 years ago at the hands of the combined forces of Goldie Roger and Monkey D. Garp. The battle was described as monumental, one that changed the course of history and brought an end to the legendary Rox pirates. But here's the thing, so far that's all it is, a claim. We haven't actually seen the event, we haven't gotten to that part of the flashback, there's been no visual proof, or at least not yet. But in a world like One Piece, when secrets and mysteries propel the story forward, what's missing and what's not yet told often matters the most. And this lack of concrete detail leaves me just enough space, leaves the door open just wide enough for a theory to step through. So starting with my first idea, Rox Alive is still alive and we're actually going to see him at ELBAF. Why, you ask? Calling supporting evidence number 1 to the stage, Rox Alive's real life inspiration. Rox Alive seems to be at least partly based on a certain Roche Brasiliano, a notoriously real-world violent pirate who, according to some accounts, vanished without a trace. No death, no execution, no final battle. Roche just disappeared, leaving behind only legend. Of course, that's not confirmation of anything, but I do have to say it's a striking parallel to what seems to have happened to Rox, seemingly just vanishing from the history books. And Oda is often known for pulling from real-life myths and historical events, and so this unresolved disappearance of an infamous pirate is exactly the kind of detail he would like to twist into his own narrative. If Brasiliano faded into legend, maybe Rox did too. But if Rox is still alive, then where could he be? Well, I started thinking, why look any further than where we're currently at? ELBAF. After all, it's only now here in the ELBAF arc that we are finally seeing his face revealed and finding out more juicy information after years of being kept in the dark. What if Rox is actually still alive and is still at ELBAF? And even this ties back into Roche Brasiliano, so let's just quickly walk through his career. Roche Brasiliano started out as a privateer, essentially a pirate with government license, government sanction. And so maybe it's possible that Rox Alive had a similar beginning. What if he wasn't just some rogue pirate from the beginning, and rather he initially had ties to the world government? Maybe he even worked for them before going fully pirate, and that could explain how he attended the revelry, if he was somehow affiliated with the world government. We know that Roche Brasiliano eventually led a mutiny, turning against his own and becoming a true pirate. And so what if Rox did the same? Maybe he led a rebellion, not against his crew, but against the very world government system, all in order to become king of the world. He killed an admiral at the revelry at the Holy Land. He knew forbidden truths. Maybe he uncovered the secrets of Imu whilst at Marijoa and decided to take the throne for himself. But then he vanished. No confirmed death, no body, just rumors. Which again is exactly what happened to Roche Brasiliano. Some say he was killed, others say he survived and lived on in the shadows. And here's the thing, right? If Rox was once affiliated with the world government, maybe as a privateer-like figure, a military asset, or even a secret agent, then he would have had inside knowledge of how the system operates, their strategies, their weak points, political structures, and most importantly, where their influence doesn't reach. And that would explain a lot. It would explain how he could vanish without a trace. Someone with that level of intel wouldn't go down easily. He would know exactly where to disappear to, and Elbath would be the perfect place. It's one of the few extremely powerful nations not aligned with the world government. They have their own code, their own pride, their own military strength. No celestial dragon would dare to step foot there. Rox hiding in Elbath wouldn't just be about survival, it's strategic. Elbath lies outside the reach of the world government and sits atop ancient lore, the giant traditions, the world tree, and maybe even void century secrets. A powerful, sovereign nation untouched by the world government. If Rox is alive, then that's the perfect place to hide, observe, and wait to strike again. And if Rox Visited is actually still alive at Elbath, then I think the perfect place for him to be at is Elbath's astral plane. The astral world of the Elbath treetop kingdom is so intriguing for me. The fact that Oda would introduce us to this idea of there being 3 planes, 3 realms, and then revealing only 2 of the realms from very early on in the arc, but then just withholding that 3rd realm? I mean, what is he hiding? The payoff from unveiling Rox alongside this very mysterious astral realm would be so wild, and so it's just my own personal wish as to how I would like for this all to unfold. But I guess Rox doesn't necessarily have to be alive to be in the astral plane. With all the Norse connections, the astral realm might be a little bit more like Valhalla, which according to ancient Norse mythology, that's the realm where warriors who die in battle go to following their deaths. So it's possible that we'll actually see the likes of Rox and King Harold in the afterlife as a sort of spiritual experience. But I do have to say, I do like this idea of Rox still being alive, and for me, the actual reveal of Rox really reinvigorates the long existing theories about Blackbeard and his relationship to Xebec. So there has been a long-standing theory that Rox is still alive, but that he lives on within Blackbeard. And even though a much more straightforward relationship has now been revealed due to the father and son connection, I don't think that we can just ignore all the oddities about Blackbeard. Now, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, there has been a very popular theory within the fanbase that Blackbeard actually has multiple souls, and that this explains all the abnormalities surrounding his character. It's the reason why back in Jaya, Luffy and Zoro say something strange about sensing him. They say that it's not just one guy and that there's more than one. It's the reason why throughout the series in different panels, Blackbeard's personality but also his character design changes. For example, the number of teeth he's drawn with is inconsistent. The fact that Blackbeard never sleeps according to Buggy, which lines up with SBS Volume 63, showing a young Blackbeard curled up under a moon crying, which fans have put 2 and 2 together to claim that this shows Blackbeard wants to sleep, but he can't sleep, almost like a curse. And then there's the 3-headed Jolly Roger, and of course perhaps the most intriguing, how did Blackbeard manage to consume a second devil fruit? And Marco outright states that Blackbeard's body is different, implying that that was the reason why he was able to consume multiple devil fruits, something thought to be impossible, something thought to be fatal. And so the theory goes on to state that the reason why all of this is possible is because Blackbeard actually has multiple souls. This is what Luffy and Zoro were sensing. This explains the various appearances and personalities because it's supposed to represent each different soul coming through. It's why Blackbeard physically can't sleep, because someone is always awake. One of his souls is always awake. And that's also why he can consume multiple devil fruits, because if the foundational rule is 1 devil fruit per person or per soul, then Blackbeard has multiple souls. And taking this theory one step further, one of those souls is Rox Visited. That's why Blackbeard chases Rox's footsteps. That's why he's after the same goal of being king of the world according to Van Orgeren. It's the reason why he named his ship the Saber of Xebec. It's not just the fact that he inherited Rox's will. Rox is actually still alive, still within Blackbeard, inside his own son. And the reason why I actually find this theory even more compelling after the reveal that they're actually related is because of Rox's design. Rox's 2-toned hair, half dark, half light. This might not be just an aesthetic choice. This could actually be symbolic, much deeper, shadow and light, night and day, 2 forces sharing 1 form, 2 halves, 2 minds, 2 souls. Was Rox the same as Blackbeard? Did he have more than 1 soul? Is that what made him so dangerous and why Roger and Garp found it necessary to defeat him? Because this could also relate to the comment that Saint Saturn made about Blackbeard's lineage. Now, to be fair, the Japanese did suggest that Saint Saturn was just referring to Blackbeard's family family line, so he may just have been talking about Blackbeard being related to Xebec. But it's true that he may have been referring more generally about what makes that family so special. Because in an earlier theory of mine, I did also consider whether Blackbeard could be part Buccaneer, the same race as Bartholomew Kuma, and admittedly, Kuma is shown sleeping in his flashback, and that doesn't quite line up with Blackbeard's insomnia. But the key word is part Buccaneer, because Blackbeard is also roughly half of Kuma's size. So it's possible that the other half of Blackbeard's lineage is the one that carries this strange sleepless trait, and maybe it's the Buccaneer side that allows him to consume multiple devil fruits, because we all know that there's something more about the Buccaneer lineage. Remember back in chapter 1104 when Vegapunk saw Kuma move despite being reduced to a mindless husk? He says, "So it's true then, it's not just physical strength that makes Buccaneers special, for at one point in time they ... Now Vegapunk says this after witnessing Kuma move when he should have been in a completely vegetative state. Kuma's actions defied all reasoning, which is exactly what led Vegapunk to connect it to Kuma's Buccaneer heritage. And his sentence cuts off, but the implication is clear. There is more to Buccaneers than just brute strength. There's something more, something special, something embedded in their bloodline. And that something may exactly be what Blackbeard has inherited. Going back to Saint Saturn's comments about Blackbeard's special lineage, it's worth noting that this was also made in the very same Egghead arc, the very same arc centered on the Buccaneers with Kuma at its emotional core, and again by Saint Saturn, the same elder who orchestrated Kuma's torment and represents the world government's anti-Buccaneer agenda. Saint Saturn's fixation on Blackbeard's bloodline during this arc with this theme, well, it could be a very strong hint that Blackbeard is also connected to the Buccaneer race. And the reason I say this is because the way that I interpret Vegapunk's comment, the fact that Kuma can move despite being essentially dead, well, maybe it's because for Vegapunk, it seems like there is another layer of identity, another soul, some life form still alive, still present within Kuma. And maybe that suggests that that's what's special about Buccaneers. They have more than one life source, they have more than one soul, they have more than just one within them. And that's what allows Blackbeard to have multiple souls to consume multiple devil fruits. That's what allows Roxy Xebec's soul to still reside in Blackbeard. So that's the second speculation I started thinking about since this Rox reveal. Another idea I have is that the Yummy Yummy no Mi is originally Rox's devil fruit, and that's why Teach was so keen to possess it, but not only because it's the same devil fruit that once belonged to his father, but also because, like Luffy's supposed Gomu Gomu no Mi, the Yummy Yummy no Mi holds much greater, much stronger god-like abilities. So let's unpack this further. We know that Rox's crew were after strong and, more importantly, specific devil fruits. We know this because during the God Valley flashback, we see them involve themselves at God Valley solely for the purpose of stealing the devil fruits that were being offered up as prizes. And here Whitebeard declares to the crew, make sure it's the right one, suggesting that they're after a very specific, very particular devil fruit. Now, supposedly Rox died by the end of the God Valley incident, or as I discussed earlier, that's what Sengoku claims or heavily suggests that Roger and Garp killed him at God Valley. And so it would be natural to assume that would mean Xebec never got to claim the prized devil fruit that he was after. But then I started thinking about it and I realized, what if that's exactly why Roger and Garp were forced to team up and take Rox down? Rox's devil fruit, the Yummy Yummy no Mi, or whatever its true name is, made Rox too powerful, too dangerous, and so he had to be taken down. I've said on multiple occasions that it is difficult to say that Rox is an evil character, apart from the fact that Roger and Garp opposed him, two figures who generally represent the good in One Piece. There's nothing to suggest that Rox was a bad guy. I mean, yeah, he's rough and brutish maybe, but nothing to suggest that he's straight up evil. So perhaps the reason why he posed such a threat that Garp and Roger, two rivals on on opposing factions still put aside their differences to defeat this man together was because of what he represented after consuming that devil fruit. And now knowing what we know about Luffy's devil fruit, that its true nature is much more significant than it originally seemed, it's possible that the Yami Yami no Mi is the same. If Luffy has the sun god Nika devil fruit, but the side that represents light and liberation, what if Blackbeard has a sun god devil fruit that represents darkness and destruction? The Yami Yami no Mi is already representative of darkness and the void, but this could be taken even one step further. I mean, for example, what if he has the Hito Hito no Mi, mythical Zoan Erebos? Erebos being the personification of darkness according to Greek mythology. After all, we find out in Elbath that Nika has been known for both qualities, as being both a savior and the destroyer. This would just be one more parallel to add to Luffy and Blackbeard's character dynamic, something that has been a long-running thread throughout the series. And then this could also explain why Rox stopped by at Elbath. We see in chapter 1154 he visits Elbath intent on speaking with King Harold well before the events at God Valley. And I was originally thinking that he might have wanted to invite Harold onto his crew, but then I started thinking, if Elbath is known for possessing a special legendary devil fruit, it's probably likely that Rox came to Elbath to demand they hand over the devil fruit. Especially because it now seems like this legendary devil fruit that Elbath has been possessing, has been passing down their royal family, is none other than Luffy's Nika devil fruit, which is something that I expand on in another video of mine, so go feel free to watch that one. But perhaps Rox thought that Elbath had the other darker destruction themed devil fruit, one that could help him conquer the world, and that's what he was doing at Elbath. And if they met, then Harold may have actually recognized Zebek's threat, and so he may have actually helped the world government dispose of Rox, which is, after all, what Loki claims. He claims that King Harold is siding with the world government, the ones responsible for Rox's death. So that's another idea of mine, but if we have some time to discuss another thought I had after reading chapter 1154, some of you may laugh at me, some of you may even scoff, but I have to admit, after seeing the Rox reveal, this brought me back to the lurking legend. For those of you who don't know what I'm referring to, during his annual Jump Fest the Message for 2018, Oda teased that a powerful and mysterious figure, someone he called the lurking legend, would be introduced in the Wano arc. And that line set the fandom on fire, sparking theories about new villains and returning legends. But ever since the Wano arc has ended, most fans believe that Oda was either talking about Kaido or that he was referring to Rox, but just the fact that he was being first introduced via Sengoku back in 2019. But then a couple years later in 2021, there was another comment made by the One Piece anime director Tatsuya Nagamine, where Tatsuya commented on the final enemy of Wano. And at the time, I actually made a video speculating that maybe Rox was still alive and that he would be Wano's final enemy, and that he was also the lurking legend that Oda had also hinted at a couple years prior. But of course, Wano came and went, and that didn't happen. Kaido was the final enemy, aside from a very brief post-battle appearance by Green Bull, and obviously Rox never showed up. But with the latest chapters revealing that Rox is Blackbeard's father, it does make you wonder, was this a plot thread Oda originally planned to explore much earlier in the series? Especially if you consider that we know Oda once considered skipping Elbath. He once envisioned a version of the One Piece story where Luffy and the Straw Hats never make it to Elbath. And around the same time, by the end of 2020, Oda was still thinking of wrapping up One Piece within 5 years. So this has made me wonder whether Oda was initially planning on revealing Zebek at Wano, and the lurking legend was always meant to be Rox D. Zebek appearing at Wano. But obviously his plans have changed since then. We have indeed made it to Elbath, and now that we're finally here, it's only now that we might be finally seeing those original plans unfold. Anyways, those are just some of the ideas that have been tittering around my brain ever since the Rox reveal. Like I said, there are so many plot threads, so many possibilities that this introduces. So let me know what you think think about any of my speculations, or let me know if you have any Rox theories of your own by leaving a comment below. Please like and share the video if you enjoyed today's discussion, and please do subscribe to help out a fellow One Piece fan get to 100,000 subscribers, and in return I'll make sure you never run out of One Piece content. You can also help support the channel further like these wonderful people by becoming a Patreon or channel member. But as always, thank you so much for listening to another one of my crazy ramblings. This is JoyGirl, and I'll see you again soon.